News today that the president of parts of Borneo and a small hut near his cousin Lenny Spelmworth, who sells carpets at outrageously cheap prices and once had an extramarital affair with a three-toed sloth named Petunia Wink, Geraldine Speheffy, has been caught in a gummy hamster smuggling racket off the coast of one of the less affluent islands in the Maldives. Several of his cabinet, most of whom are ungulates with impeccable taste in cravats and pointy nasal attachments, rushed to his aid and have started systematically hushing the whole thing up. One of them, a particularly prominently buttocked Spanish Ibex, accused the media of fabricating the story to take attention away from the fact that most of the world is in utter chaos and we teeter on the brink of complete self-annihilation due to stupidity and pride, probably in the next 5 years. The world media replied, "Don't be ridiculous," yelled, "Wait, what's that shiny thing over there?" and made their escape through the thick jungle overgrowth to the ancient city of Tukumbi, which had been presumed lost for decades, but it turns out that the Cactac tribe, who generally rule the place, are incredibly sensible and find other humans at best an annoyance and at their worst downright hateful and punch-worthy. In other headlines, Fermi Wormguttle, Latin minister for tossing it in his neighbour's yard, has opened a string of successful haberdasheries where not only can you buy nifty-coloured zips and a myriad of thimble types, but you can also, if you choose, have your genitals rubbed liberally with lemon loaf by a dwarf named Simon. And in other headlines, celebrity chef and downright arrogant facial stomach Carlos Kachifachu Pomsgrade ate a bat. But now, unfortunately, it's the after-movie diner, which this week comes all the way from the Jocelyn Fez, bring a ladle full of pudding and a picture of your uncle's taint eatery in fashionable West London. The special today is endives dipped in the vague and tiresome disgust of a relative you don't see frequently enough, and pigeons sautéed in the tears of the goat that once held a special place in the heart of toothy wonderkind and well-known lover of hats, Carly Simon. For 40 pence in old teeth, the waiters will perform a hearty jig while trying to maintain trouser pockets filled with gazpacho soup, and for 60 pence the maitre d' will come over and tell them to stop it.
You're listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, John Cross.
That's right, I am John Cross, and while you may have to deal with my voice, I have to deal with my thighs, wrists, and face. So do all the children. Hello, ladies, germs, wiccans, wackens, toucans, youcans, haves, have-nots, have-a-goes, have a banana, people who believe in a dog's right to protest, a goat's right to party, and a Belgian gut sparrow to do the mashed potato, hat lovers, fat mothers, chat feathers, hearty glands, Barry Manilow fans, admirers of spaghetti hoops, owners of one-legged parakeets named George, and the made-up Prime Minister of Lithuania, Herb Velmpants. Welcome one and welcome all. Before we get started with this week's show, a reminder that you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/aftermoviediner. That's patreon.com/aftermoviediner. And not only get some great rewards, but get the personal reward of knowing you paid it forward once. You can then smugly lord your goodness over all your friends at your next monthly wine, cheese, and pygmy cuddling festival. You can also go to aftermoviediner.com and click on the Amazon link in the top right-hand corner before you do any of your Amazon shopping. It costs you absolutely no extra, but for everything you buy, Amazon kicks us a few shiny coins. Alternatively, you can also copy and paste that link and bookmark it as your Amazon link so that every time you go, it's as if you're clicking through the website without having to go to the website. But go to the website because it's full of awesome content by incredible contributors. Anyway, finally, you can also go to miscplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com. That's MISC plumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com and buy some singer-songwritery, folky, bluesy, rocky music by Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures. Every penny goes back to keeping AfterMovieDiner.com and this podcast alive. So please help us out wherever you can, and if you can't, we all understand we get strapped for cash. At least rate and review us wherever the podcast is found and help spread the word. And now, as if with a magic flash, we're off to the diner. All right, hello and welcome. We are back, ladies and germs.
Backington.
That's
the new word, sweeping New York.
It is.
Sweeping it.
Good evening, ladies and germs, and Gerald Backerton III. We are Backington, here in the After Movie Diner.
But not in this diner, because we've never been here.
We've never been here before, but
I tried to suggest that maybe we had, and you got quite cross about it.
I didn't get quite cross
Not
about
quite
it.
cross.
I got John cross about it.
You got John cross about it. Because you do get John cross about some things.
I get John cross about most things.
Yeah, you just got John cross about 2001: A Space Odyssey outside.
I did, yeah.
But you got quite John cross about that.
I did. Can we start with the whole cross part? Because it's really...
no, I quite like
I feel
that.
like this, in my 38th year, it's sort of overdone. It's overcooked.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's all right. I think people have heard it, mate. Where they've been there, they've done that. Unlike this diner, where they haven't.
Oh, all right. I've never made a John Cross thing before.
Well, you might not.
I feel like I'm late to the party.
Yeah, you
Not that
are.
it was a pretty. Clearly, it was a pretty horrible party. You
It's
don't
not.
want
It's
to
not.
revisit it.
It's not a great. It's not a great
It's not a
party.
good party.
It's almost like a party that you hold, filled with hope and dreams of a party filled with fascinating, interesting, lovely people.
Right.
And when you actually throw the party, 3 people you kind of don't like and just invited out of politeness and sheer desperation show up.
And that's it.
And then tell you everything that's going wrong with your life.
That sounds like, like it started
That sounds
off
like
as a
every-
hypothetical,
every
but then it got like really super specific to a sense that you were actually having a flashback.
That I've
like an
actually-
A-team, like your equivalent of a Vietnam flashback.
Yeah.
Only instead of like Choppers in the Jungle. Yes, please.
Yes.
Choppers in the Jungle, it was 3 blokes at a party. I do think I want the corned beef omelette, I think is what I want.
Do I want ham, egg, and fries, or do I want a chicken parmigiana sandwich? I think I want just ham,
Chili
egg,
and cheddar
fries.
cheese omelette. Do they think they mean chili as in...
That'd be chili, as in
No, it'll be an actual chili, won't it? It won't
yeah,
be-
like meat chili. You always go for omelette. I always find that to be completely weird.
Do you think you want a chili and cheddar cheese omelette? That sounds amazing.
Well, then order it. You big goof. You big goon. You big wazzer. You big dribbly
I am a
mass.
big... I am a big
You big
wazzick.
Kolchak the Night Stalker.
I do like... I realise that now. That is...
That hat
That
is
is what I look
particularly
All
Kolchak.
I need is like a really cheap...
Blue
I
jacket.
mean, I feel like this is his shirt, too.
Right, yeah, you just need a light blue jacket and that thing he has around his neck.
Okay. Deal. Do you think that just a corned beef omelette is going to be too dry?
I can't make these life decisions for you.
Am I either going to get the corned beef omelette
Oh, for
or
God's sake.
the chili and cheddar cheese omelette?
These
I'm
are
so tempted by the
these
chili
are
and
the
cheddar cheese
things.
omelette.
These are the things that will haunt us, dear
I think I
listener.
might get the chili. I'm going to find out if it's chili as in, I don't want to look at you like cheddar cheese and spicy hot chilies.
Oh, you're going to ask him the difference. This is going to take forever.
It's not, he's just going to say yes or no.
He's not
It's a
going to
yes or no
understand what
question.
you're saying.
Hey,
Oh.
the chili and cheddar cheese omelette. Chili, is that like chili bowl of chili? Or chili as in, the...
No, this is the chili. This one.
That's the chili, okay. So I'll get the chili and cheddar cheese omelette.
Chili and cheddar, okay.
Thank you very much.
White toast, whole wheat toast, right?
Whole wheat toast, please.
Okay. For you?
I have 2 eggs over easy with the ham fried, and I'll have fries. No, regular fries.
No,
please.
over ham, eh?
No home fries for me.
No
No home,
potatoes.
just the toasters then.
No potatoes.
No potatoes.
White toast, whole wheat toast for you.
White toast, please.
White toast, okay.
So it's
Over ham, french fries, and white toast.
2 eggs, ham, French fries, white toast.
Over, eh? Yeah, over.
The eggs over easy, yeah. And I'll actually can I grab an ice cold can of Coke? That'd be amazing.
Coke and a Coke
Can of Coke, yeah. The lovely iced cold can of Coke.
for you.
So hot outside.
I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to get English breakfast tea with milk, please. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So,
Here we are, about to get our omelets, chili and cheddar cheese. Now I feel like I should have got the corned beef omelette. But who can turn down a chili and cheddar cheese omelette?
I'm
really?
going to smack you violently in the face if you don't be quiet about your
Right.
fucking
Yeah,
omelets.
but I have to say, like,
Nobody cares
so
about
can,
your
can I
omelets.
ask a question? Do you
No.
feel like the hot weather makes you more or less grumpy? I'm just wondering. Do you know what I mean?
Way
It's
more.
a mystery to me.
Way more
whether
grumpy.
you're more grumpy. It was so disgusting
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
that
We walked for an hour in it, though.
I swear blind.
We walked for an hour.
We
in
did
it.
work for an hour.
You said potato or not potato?
No potatoes.
No potato.
No potato.
Whole wheat toast.
Yeah, just whole wheat toast. Thanks, mate.
We walked for an hour in it, and then to get to the diner after the movie, we walked
But it was
for another 20
disgusting as
minutes.
soon as we started. It wasn't like after an hour.
Well, that's what I said.
we
So I
realised.
walked-
As soon as we started.
I
it was
walked over.
horrible.
Nobody cares about this, by the way, but I walked over from Madison to 7th or whatever avenue you're on,
Yeah.
And I was already at the maximum point of smegginess that I could be. So I just figured if we continue to walk, how much more like smells could I attach to my already disgusting
They turned
frame?
out quite a few.
Quite a few.
Certainly when
Apparently,
I was...
if you walk an hour through Midtown, the West Village, and eventually Tribeca, you will develop inhuman levels of smell.
There was a point in the movie, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I moved my arm
Yeah.
to like get something, and I nearly passed out.
because of
All of a sudden, out of nowhere,
what
this
came out
waft
from under your
that
arm.
came out from under my arm.
You know how
Drew's
you
been
feel.
trapped there.
You know how you feel like that in the middle of the movie. You know how you had that experience. That's almost everyone else's experience with you every day. That's not true, ladies and gents. He's lovely.
Bless you.
He's
Thank you very
wonderful.
much.
I'm only jesting.
He's only pulling me legs. Only
I'm
pulling
only,
me legs.
I'm only,
He's only pulling me legs, ladies and
only
gentlemen.
yanking your crank, tugging your sailboat.
Not for the first time.
I don't know, tugging your sailboat. I don't even know what that is. Oh, that looks amazing. Thanks, sir. So, the after movie diner this week is coming from the Washington Square diner.
Rat adjacent.
Well,
It comes with its own garden and its own rat.
there is a small city park to the left of it where I'm sitting, to the right of it if you're facing it. Again, nobody really cares. And in that park, there be a rat and much garbage.
Presumably like king rat of that
King
park.
rat of that
He was
park.
just like wandering around the middle of the park without a care in the world.
Also, there's a potted plant in the window that appears to still have Christmas decorations on it.
It does seem to do.
Unless they just thought it was pretty bows and didn't realise.
Maybe the rat likes it. Do you know what I mean? Well,
Maybe that's
maybe
the
they took him
signal.
down, and then the rat knocked on the window and went, what are you doing?
Oh wow!
What are you doing?
And a guy just came through from the kitchen and carrying an enormous bag of garbage through the restaurant. Like literally from the kitchen to the front.
Cool.
So instead of taking it round the back or to some sort of
Probably the rat's
dumpster
on the
scenario.
back. Do you know what I mean? They probably haven't paid like the rat tax.
So
Do you know what I
anyway,
mean?
that's where we are. This gets 4 stars out of 386 reviews. And it is deemed an A.
384 of them were written by rats.
It's deemed an A by the New York City inspectors, most of whom as well, I would assume, are rats. Probably several rats in a trench coat and a hat, pretending to be a human.
Honestly,
And they're like, wait a minute, your face there, that looks a bit ratty.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, yeah,
a little bit like a whole bunch of rats
I've been ill.
covered in an overcoat.
Covered in an overcoat.
Squeak. Oh wow.
Well, if you're
Put it
gonna
like
put it
that.
that way,
All right.
if you're gonna put it that way, I'll step away. But anyway, yeah. So the after movie diner is a brand new diner this week. It was either this or one that we've been to many times before, which
And we know how much they care.
it's fine.
They get so bored if we become the same old diner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's deeply important to them that we
go
go
to a new
to
one.
a new diner.
well, it's simply important to me, mate.
I know. I know.
Or we could have gone across the road to the Waverley diner.
Desperately clinging on to the idea of like that there could be such a thing as a new experience,
Well, this is a new experience.
as opposed to rehashing the same old
You know,
experiences.
these tiny awkward benches and the
know,
rat adjacent.
slow but definite march towards the grave.
Well, if
The ever decreasing circles.
if I'm
that
grumpy,
are our lives.
if I'm grumpy,
I'm not
you're,
grumpy, I'm
you're
just-
clearly cheery.
No, I guess
In an ironic way, like if you
when
were
it
going to
gets-
have Snow White and the 7 ironic dwarfs,
no, I would be
you
Irony
would be,
the dwarf.
You would be cheery.
I would be Irony the dwarf. Well, this is great. Oh yeah, let's wake her up. Yeah, brilliant idea. Saki the dwarf.
Yeah.
That would be.
Well, no, because then that's not ironic. It would have to be. You would have to be called like Pleasantries the dwarf or something. When really,
I could be Pleasantries the dwarf.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Lovely. Cool.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Lovely.
Thank you, sir.
Oh yeah. A whole week for me. Yeah. Thank you so very much. Magic.
Wow, that literally is
That is exactly what it says on the tin.
chili poured all over an omelette.
I feel like this is going to kill me.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm going to die.
I have to say, dear listeners, that it is quite grotesque what we're looking at right
It
now.
all depends on the definition of grotesque.
Well, I tell you how I define grotesque. It's something that looks like it may have, I can't even say it. I think if I say it, it'll put you off your grotesque.
Yeah, no, don't. Because it actually does look pretty good to me.
But we have an announcement. We have an announcement before we kick in.
Do we?
Yeah, we do. I've just got to bring it up on the old telephone system. So the announcement then this week is a huge thank you.
Oh, cool.
From Jim and myself to a Mr. Charles H. Nelson.
Cool, Charles H. Nelson.
For his new patronising of us through Patreon to the tune of $1 a show.
Charles H. Nelson, you're a gentleman and scholar.
He's off your shit list.
He is off my shit list.
I think he heard your.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you, Charles H. Nelson.
Charles H. Nelson.
It's a splendid name, a strong name,
Strong
true
name. And a second huge thank you, because between recording this episode and editing this episode, Chris Leatherman also donated on Patreon to the After Movie Diner. So a huge, huge thank you to those two chaps. Thanks so much for your support of the After Movie Diner. How fantastic. Please do keep it up. And we will keep it up. Huh? See what I did there? Good. Now back to the show. And anyway, tonight, prior to sitting down in the Washington Square Diner, we went to the Roxy Cinema, which is...
Well, we are lifetime members.
We are now lifetime members, thanks to this very podcast. So, really, we should say, tonight's episode is sponsored by the Roxy Cinema, Tribeca. If ever in New York, and you want to see either a retro show or a new, interesting, different movie,
Or catch a jazz band.
In an old-fashioned, groovy, big red velvet curtain type.
Air conditioned.
That was key.
That was very, very important today.
Old school cinema.
I was a bit worried it might not
that
be.
also screens 35mm.
It was good quality.
Very good quality. We can highly recommend the Roxy Cinema Tribeca. Reopened recently, I believe.
Yes.
After some renovations. But they're not renovations you would know. You wouldn't go in and go, this has been made all modern and This is in keeping with the swanky New York Tribeca thing. But it's very reasonable, even if you do have to pay. It's not your $16, $17, $18. $12
bucks. That's really nice too.
And you see a good movie. And thanks to the Roxy Cinema, they heard our shows, they saw our posts on the Instagrams, and they extended a hand of unity to the After
hand of
Movie
unity,
Diner.
holding a box of popcorn.
And so, I think the Roxy Tribeca Cinema, probably one of my new favourites.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that, particularly as the films we've shown there, we've seen there, have been really good.
Yeah, now there was a slight...
Except for Gandra and Hess, which was just weird.
But
it was not good.
No. There was a slight dearth of Thursday evening screenings.
Yes.
But back with a bang, 7 p.m, right in the sweet spot, right where we need it to be.
Yes. Right where we
saw a screening of 1951's. It purports to be a film noir. It's actually probably more like a melodrama, to be honest.
Actually, it's more like a thriller. Actually, it's like an old-fashioned thriller.
Right.
If they made it in Hollywood now,
Right.
you'd describe that as a thriller, not a melodrama.
Starring Robert Ryan, which people will know from The Dirty Dozen and The Wild Bunch, one of the few people to actually appear in both. You'll also know him from a whole bunch of other stuff if you are a golden era of Hollywood aficionado. But he worked for decades, right into the 70s. Usually playing hard-bitten cops and or criminals, and or army types, because he has got quite the...
He's got kind of a captain's face, isn't he? I could see him as being like a captain, an American army captain.
The grizzled and chiseled.
Like authority, but not right at the top.
Grizzled and chiseled.
Bollocks.
No, not grizzled and chiseled bollocks, mate.
And the problem with a white shirt is when you
just drop fucking chili on it.
chili cheese on it, it's not going to forgive you for that. I'm going to have to spend the rest of the day in New York with a chili cheese stain.
Looking like you pooped the front of your shirt.
You know, I don't want to wander around looking like a middle-aged man, but just sometimes that's just what's going to happen to me, isn't it?
It's just going to happen, mate. And you don't even have children.
Can't fight it. Can't fight it.
So Robert Ryan and Ida Lupino.
I think it's Ida Lupino.
Ida Lupino.
Oh, I'd heard of it. I don't think I've seen her in it.
I got a feeling she became something of a auteur, didn't she? Didn't she like direct some stuff and?
I haven't got a clue. Your name is familiar, but more than that, mate, I cannot.
I have to say, we are still dipping one's pinkies into the murky film noir
Yeah, I'd
and
like to see
golden
a lot
age
more
of Hollywood.
I've only seen the
waters.
We talked about this when we went to see
Sunset Boulevard.
the Roxy Sunset Boulevard. About how I'd always thought, I was like, yeah, you know, I've seen it, but actually I've only seen, you know, The Big Sleep, Maltese Falcon,
Right.
Casablanca,
Right.
the classics.
So the
Not
more
much more
the
than that.
more the Roxy puts on such things,
The more we'll go and see them.
the more we'll go see them. Film noir, mate. That's where it's at,
Absolutely.
baby. As I believe Robert Ryan himself would have said,
But you're right. Although
if,
there were like,
if he had but the words.
so shall I go run down the plot?
Yeah, go ahead, mate. Go ahead, mate.
The plot is Robert Ryan is a New York City cop. Is it New York?
It's never stated what city.
No, because they drive 70 miles north of New York is not mountains. It's
No. It's an unnamed city.
unnamed city. He's a cop in an unnamed, dirty city. Yeah, because the addresses were kind of weird too.
Yeah.
But and he is the only single copper in his mini unit. He's sick of the life.
He's been doing it 12
He's
years.
doing it 11 years.
11 years?
11 years.
Okay.
This is his 12th, I suppose. And he's sick of it, and he's been drawn into the muck.
Well, he starts off something of a
With the
Dirty
crims.
Harry figure.
No, I don't. I'm
Or
not
like a proto-Dirty Harry in the sense that...
I guess so, yeah.
In the sense that his go-to stance is rough him up and get the business on him, but...
I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that.
No, it is.
But I know what you mean.
Unlike Harry, he wrestles with it. He doesn't understand why he has to do it. He
It's more like he's having a crisis of faith, basically. But it involves the fact that all he sees, he's been the bigger cop, like sums up. He says, you know, all he sees are people who have an angle, who are trying to play him. And he doesn't really connect with anybody. He doesn't really know why he's doing what he's doing.
and he doesn't.
He
go
doesn't
home to
understand
anyone.
why.
He doesn't go home to anyone.
No, he doesn't go home to anyone. And he doesn't understand why he has to be brutal. In other words, in order to get the information that he needs, that people want him to get as a cop, he has to be like a thug and brutal. And like that, there is that amazing scene with the guy where he says, "Why do you make me do it? You know you're going to talk. I know you're going to talk. So why do you make me beat you up?"
Yeah.
And then he does it anyway and puts her in the hospital, and the lawyer wants to work. So he basically goes too far. He doesn't exactly snap. It's just that he stops caring about the niceties of, punch where they don't bruise and stuff like that. He doesn't even care about that anymore. Like, all he knows is I have to beat him up until he talks. He doesn't give a shit about consequences anymore. He stopped caring about consequences. He's going through the motions, the extremely violent motions. And so
he's not even interested in any human kindness, because we see a couple of women in the first sort of section of the film make eyes at him or try and be nice to him or try and like...
Well, there's two. There's the blonde, who the insinuation is he does have it away with the blonde.
Right.
In order to get the information, and then kind of leaves feeling dead inside, because basically he's just like had sex with a woman for her information, which is pretty bleak. And then there's the sweet girl at the
Ice cream
drugstore who says, "Yeah, what would my brother say? Going out with a cop." It's like disdain for the idea of her ever actually dating a policeman, despite the fact that she's flirting with them. And that really that pushes him over the edge, I think, this idea that he's doing all this stuff and people despise him.
Right.
Even the people he's protecting. I mean, he's despised by the criminals, but he understands that. But he's despised by the people that he's, like, you know, ruining himself for.
Right.
So his captain sends him on a case upstate where some girl's been murdered. The timeline doesn't really make sense about that because some girl's been murdered, but by the time he gets up there, they found the guy that's done it, and they're chasing him. And it all seems to have happened like just hours before.
Right.
But whatever. And anyway, he joins in this like long chase of this guy who's killed that guy's daughter. And they chase him and he's chasing him with this guy. And the guy's like, yeah, you're just a city cop. You're just going to get in the way with your rules when all I'm going to do when I find him is blow his fucking brains out. Not realising that the city cop goes, no, that sounds fine to me. Chase, you know, where we get to kill someone with no moral consequences, but there's a right and a wrong. I'm comfortable with that.
I don't know that that's what he's saying. I read that differently. But anyway, carry on.
Fair enough. Either way, he seemed to be relieved to be involved in a chase where he's not going to have to beat anybody up. He just has to chase somebody, and it's more like it's fine if you want to, you know, if you want to do it, I don't give a shit. It's basically his stance seems to be. And,
again, I don't think so, but carry on.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, they eventually follow into this house, and in the house is a blind woman who it's apparent pretty early on is hiding the guy, whoever it is. And then they find like men's clothes in the house, and she goes, "Oh, they're my brothers, they're my brothers." So it's pretty obvious that the man they're looking for is her brother. And over the course of the night, it all happens in this quite, it all happens basically over the course of a night.
Yeah.
And they stay at this house, and in the morning, basically the chase begins again. But over the course of the night, he makes sort of a connection with the woman because she doesn't need him, but also she sort of does. And that's sort of the connection there. She's proud.
See, I don't... Okay.
Go on.
I mean, yeah, they're the basic beats in the movie.
All right.
Sure.
All right. Go on then, disagree with me. Disagree with my razor-sharp analysis. My Reading University approved film analysis.
Yeah, well, that says it all, doesn't it, dear listener? Because, of course, Wickham or Buckinghamshire Chiltern University is so much better.
But as far as the Yanks are concerned, Chiltern University, Reading University, it's all the same, isn't it?
Right.
It's not as if Reading's like the fucking acme of anything, except being Reading. And even that, there's probably another Reading somewhere in the world that's better at being Reading than Reading is.
Yeah, I mean, yes, for definite. For definite. It's going to be difficult to kind of unpack because I was sort of thinking about it when I was watching the movie. Yes,
I really liked it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I mean, it's... One thing that's a little obvious, I felt, was it's by no means a big budget movie.
No, that's true. Although they've got Bernard Herrmann to do the music. But that's pre-Psycho, right? 51 is like 10 years, so maybe he's not.
Yeah, plus he's kind of done scores for all different types of movies. But interesting that he does this and he also does Taxi Driver. Because there's definitely he does Taxi Driver, right?
Yeah.
Because there's definitely a sort of God's Lonely Man aspect to... So let me just... So my...
Quick take.
Well, it's difficult to do a quick take for this movie.
No,
I feel like there's a lot more going on.
Cross take, TM.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like a new segment of the diner called Cross Take.
Cross take. All right, do a little theme and I'll do cross take.
Cross take. What is the cross take? Probably a bit grumpy, but it's still cross take.
Yeah, I would have preferred something a bit more snap. That was a bit like
a bit too long.
Sing song. I wanted more like
cross take.
Yeah, like that, like a short burst of cross take.
Got it.
I think the opening bit has a lot of, and of course, you know, you'd have to watch tons of more movies to kind of necessarily establish this. But it had a lot of like proto things that would sort of be done again much later on in the 70s and 80s in terms of
It was very straight ahead, wasn't it?
No, but in terms
very
of
stylized, which I
in
like.
terms of the sort of esoteric drama that on the surface is about well, not even on the surface in this movie, because I feel like it's fairly obvious what they're trying to say about his condition and his mindset and his personality
Yeah,
and
they're
his
not
soul
interested
and
in,
everything.
yeah.
But it's not like if you go in expecting a straight police drama or even a straight country chase movie or even a a detective falls in love with a country blind woman girl kind of movie. It's not that at all. There is it basic. They are its basic beats, but there's there's a couple of interesting things. The first interesting thing is when Pop, the cop, who has the bad shoulder, says to him, like, you don't go home to anyone, and, why are you being so violent and this whole life, and da-da-da-da-da. The way the movie starts up, where you see the other two and their lives, and Pop has a house full of children, and his other partner has, like, a woman who doesn't want him to go out on the night
That
shift.
bit where she puts his holster on him. Like the movie opens with this wife putting the gun holster on her, like as if she's like helping him out on his way. Well, she is helping him out on his way to work.
Yeah.
And then she like holds him after she's fastened it. That was an amazing
Yeah.
bit, like an amazing scene.
But
And you've got no idea what's going on. You've got no frame of reference to that.
No
point.
frame of reference
And she's like,
at
why
all.
do you have to go? Why do you have to go? You don't know, like, is he a hitman? Like,
Right.
what the fuck is going on here? It was really, and then just to, like, he's just off to work,
But
and
it's-
the beeping on the, it's great.
it's very straightforward. It's not stylized. It's trying for realism, even though it's like clearly a probably medium to low budget Hollywood film noir at the time. But it gives you little, but that whole thing about his shoulder and he's digging and they have to go to the drugstore and the doctor is going to help him out and
Was based on a novel
right,
that I saw, so things like that's why I think it feels a little richer
right.
and like,
But it's two movies. Like the whole opening section
Yeah.
could like be its own
yeah.
movie. And the idea that like all of a sudden, literally within the course of a day, he's gone from chasing thugs down and beating them up on the streets of an unnamed crime-ridden city to like running through the snow upstate. It's sort of quite jarring. And there's so much to unpack, and I really don't feel like I'm doing it justice. The scene where he is with the criminal in the beginning of the movie, and
those are very film noir shots when they burst in on the guy in the hotel room.
yeah,
There's like that bit where he's like in the chair in this like almost like 20s expressionist like pose of like horror
right.
in between the two
And that's
cops.
why it said
But I can almost
melodrama,
see that.
because the acting was very melodramatic and not.
Well, no, I mean he was, and the woman, the woman was very film noir. He was like there was like moments of being obviously film noir about it, like.
But it
she
didn't
was-
have the patter of like the bogey and the
no,
call.
I
It had
agree.
like a very
But the
sullen,
look,
straight.
But the look of him in between the two cops, it looked almost like a picture out of a
Right.
out of a Reading University film book on film noir.
no,
Like, it
I'm
looked,
sure.
you know.
No, I get that. No, I just mean
Well, he did. What
to almost
Nicholas
say.
Ray did other stuff, right? He did some other
I'm sure.
famous movies.
But I think they're filming it that way to say, this is a film noir, you know the tropes, here we go, black and white, lots of shadow, da-da-da, it's a cop drama. But then all of a sudden you're following this cop where everyone, even his partners, are questioning, like, you don't care about anyone, do you?
Yeah.
And, nobody likes him and nobody gets him and nobody really
Yeah, he's not
understands
like a Marlowe
him, and-
figure of like he's a lonesome knight who's an honourable man in a world of scoundrels kind of thing. He's a scoundrel in a world of scoundrels.
Right, except the only thing that gives him some honour, and the only reason why I kind of disagree that he shows up north and is just like, yeah, whatever, because I don't really think he's... I think that the way he plays him, and a little bit of the way it's written, not only is he clearly like he's clearly got to a point where he's not only hating what he's doing, but he's questioning how he got to that point. And he's also questioning like why he's even forced to continue to do it. And it's not that Robert Ryan does anything particularly amazing, but there's something...
He's pretty good though.
No, he is.
He bounces from
good.
like thing to thing pretty effortless.
But he has something underneath his sternness and his cruelty. And there's a couple of little shots and little like motions he does with his body and stuff that makes you know he's not the bad egg. That makes him
that's true. I'm sorry.
There is some
Yeah.
redemption to be had in there, and that
His-
actually the person holding him back from that redemption is him. Like normally in a movie, I guess it would be the external forces, like you say. There would be this very good guy who's forced to do a few bad things because of the scenarios around him.
Yeah.
What this explores, and it's more interesting, is that actually the thing that is holding him back is him. And then when he meets Ida Lupino, this blind woman who's living in this house with her brother, who she indicates probably needs to be in a mental health ward.
But then we found out she literally gave up her sight to protect, because she said something. Her brother was explaining. He said that she had a chance to go away and get her sight fixed.
Yeah.
But that she didn't want to leave him on his own because he would get into trouble.
Right, because clearly the son, the younger brother, and he is
So I guess, like him,
but a boy.
she gave everything
Yeah.
to a hopeless cause.
Right.
Like the brother is a hopeless cause. She knew it. Just like him trying to clean the streets up
Right.
is a hopeless cause, and he knows it. And they're kind of alone and struggling with that notion of having sacrificed, a huge part of themselves
Right.
to do something that they don't really believe in. Not
But
really.
there's also two things. There's
Like duty, I guess.
Right.
To some extent.
there's the fact that he is in the big city and feels very alone.
Yes.
But she's in the middle of the countryside, can't see anything, and has not given in to her loneliness.
Yeah.
She's aware that she is alone, but she is not lonely. She's also aware of the kind of futility of her situation, but she's also not letting her bring her down. And when he initially meets her, there's the interesting sequence where she's like, "Oh, I would have thought," and it's like to even think to write this. This is what I love about this.
Yeah.
There's a very simple scene. She goes to get him tea, and she's like clearly has like touchstones in her living room, how she knows how to go to the kitchen and come back and whatever. She brings the tray out, puts the tray down, and hands him his cup and saucer. And he sits down and she says, "You must have been around other blind people before. You didn't condescend to me, you didn't sympathize with me, you didn't take the tray off me and make the tea yourself. You let me do it for you and hand you a cup. That's most unusual." And what that's meant to say is that he didn't even think about it. He didn't even think about helping her. Like he's got to the point where this is just another scenario for him. He feels like he can't beat it out of her, but he knows that she's got something to say. So
that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because there is that really cool, definite, deliberate juxtaposition. There's that point where he knows that she knows something. Right? We know she knows something, and all he knows how to do is, up to this point, is sleep with her, like he did with the blonde woman to get information,
Yeah.
or beat the information, and he can't do either. In this, so he's a bit. He's not exactly. He's like. He seems to be pleased to be free from these options.
Right. But
once.
his stoicism is almost a plus to her.
Right.
At that point, I think it becomes not so much, but at that point it is. And then it becomes even more a tragedy, which is she pleads with him. She says, "I will give up my brother. I will give up the guy that I've, given my sight and everything for, if you promise, beyond everything, not to hurt him. You can take him away, put him in the psych ward, whatever, but no one can hurt him." And she says this to him while the father of the dead girl that the brother killed is outside with a shotgun, just aching to shoot anyone in the face.
Right.
there's suddenly this scenario, and I thought about this while the movie was on. I'm going to have difficulty trying to recreate the thoughts, but she basically puts him in a position. Oh, damn it, I wish I could think what I was thinking when I was watching the movie. I had it all, like, in my head, how, like, all the pieces fit together.
Well, she mentions, I know, that there's a hint that something could have been done about him a long time ago. Because
Yeah, she confronts him
He's-
with his loneliness.
no,
That's what she-
no. As in, he says, they'll take him away somewhere safe, and she says, yeah, now that it's too late. In other words, there's some story there about.
Yeah, no, I
they
wasn't
knew
even
he
thinking
was-
that.
No, I wouldn't. No, I know. I was talking about something to give him time
yeah.
to get the old, cross take together.
Yeah.
Cross take's a never easy thing.
No, it's not.
You can't rush them.
No,
They've got to be sewn together,
they have.
constructed.
Over time. And I'll
brick
figure
by
it out.
brick.
But it was to do with at that moment where she's pleading with him, that's the pivotal moment. Like, that's the moment for him where he's going to help instead of her.
Yeah.
But
Thank you very much.
it comes out of...
Yeah, because because that's the great bit. Because there's the bit where she's saying, "Please say you will. Please say you won't hurt him. Promise me. Promise me." And he's thinking about it. You can see on his face, he's really, really thinking about it. But of course, she can't. All she hears is just silence to her. So because she thinks this is. There's a part of this like this is a no-brainer, right? I'm going to give you my brother, and you're a cop. So just promise me he won't get hurt, right? That's a no-brainer for a cop. But
Right.
given
Well,
everything everything he's been through, he really, really has to think about it. So when he says, "No, he won't be hurt as long as he's with me," that's all I can promise.
Right.
That's he means that. He
Yeah.
really means it.
But it also goes back to, you said he sort of showed up north, he doesn't really care. When he first goes up north and goes into the farmhouse where the family of the slain girl are before the father shows up, he's trying to ask her questions. Like, he's trying to be a cop and, like, figure stuff out. Like, I think there's some indication that he is a good cop and he does know what to do, and it's not just about him beating people up. He feels that his hand has been forced to beat people up.
Yeah,
Like,
he's not Russell Crowe in LA Confidential.
No, he's a good cop, and so he goes in to start asking questions, and immediately everyone's like, stop asking her questions, nobody cares about questions. And he's suddenly in this place where he's confronted, I guess, with the father of the family as a representation of the way that everyone else thinks he is.
Right.
Right? Everyone else thinks he is just whatever, punch him in the face, knock him on the floor.
No, I think they think he's going to get them away with his rules and regulations, and they just want revenge.
No, that's what the father's saying. I'm saying that Robert Ryan, the cop, Jim Wilson,
Right.
that character is suddenly confronted with someone who, yes, because he lost his daughter, but in general is just like, no, fuck everyone else. No one else gets to shoot him. I get to shoot him in the gut. That's me. That's what I'm doing. I'm on a single course of revenge about this. And I think he's more aware of the violence of that and the moral problem with that.
Right.
I think everyone else around him.
So in other words, like the thing
As
that
a
he's
cop.
struggling with, everything in the city is like a moral grey area, right?
Right.
It's like, we need the information, so we do need you to hit them, but just a bit.
Right.
You just hit them a bit. Don't
Right.
get carried away.
Right.
Just hit them enough for the info. And it's
Right.
like, well, that's not a black and white. Like it's just, his whole life is grey.
Right.
It's just grey people
Well, and
with
also-
grey
but-
motives
but-
and grey. It's just
But
all
my
a
other
big
point
grey
is
area.
that no one around him. I mean, one of them goes like, "You have to talk. You can't not talk at some point." But no one around him has bothered to like really engage him, or they just think he's like this bad guy.
Right.
But then suddenly he's confronted with someone who is black and white. There is no moral quandary for him. He's
Right,
just
at that
gonna
point in
shoot
the movie, there's
Right.
there's evil, like
Right.
someone that's killed a kid,
Right.
evil,
And I feel
let's
like-
go after the evil and kill it.
And I feel like the sequence where...
Maybe that's a bit of a relief.
But I feel
to
like
him.
the sequence where they're in the car and the father is like, "You're going to lose him. It's your fault we've lost him. Why wouldn't you do that?" And Robert Ryan is like trying to be more level-headed and trying to be more sensible. I think that's all there to show us that he's not just the wham bam, couldn't care less, rogue, dirty Harry type. He's actually a more thoughtful, intelligent policeman.
Although maybe there's a thing about this particular sequence, like you're saying that. I mean, when he talks to the girl at the beginning, when he goes into the house, he's talking to the sister. He's going through the motions. He's like, "What are you talking?" Like, she's told everybody. Like, we know who it is, you know. And he's like, "What?" And he's just like being a cop, asking the questions. That's what he does. He goes and he's going. And there's
he also doesn't know. He turns up, and the whole town is out for blood.
What I'm saying is, there's obviously no sensitivity within him to like the situation of what that girl's been through, what the family's been through.
No, okay,
he's like,
no.
and I'm not saying he's like being insensitive. It's just like he's just like matter of fact about
doing
the
his
thing.
job.
You know, it's like I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what all this is. And I think that bit when he gets in the car with the cop and he's driving off, and everything is at that point, like you say, black and white. I think that comes as something of a relief to him. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm up for the chase. Let's go." And because I think he is at the beginning, he's like, he's up for it. Let's go. You know, because he like smiles. He's like, "You're going to be a city cop. You're going to get in the way." And he kind of smiles at him, like just before they get in the car, like, "You don't have to worry about me, mate. I'm all fucking in on this, right?" And I think as it goes on, and the guy's being more and more unreasonable, like, "Put your foot down." I can't put my foot down anymore. I'm going as fast as I can.
Right.
Or we're going to slip off the road or whatever. And it's just like belly, and because the guy next to him is like totally irrational.
Right.
Like, I don't care that this, you know, that the road is icy. I don't care this car is slow. All I know is he's there and he's getting away.
Right.
And I don't know anything else except that.
Right.
And so he's kind of forced to sit. No, what I'm saying is he's forced to spend what seemed like, you know, an hour or maybe even more in a car with his own, like a reflection of his own, like, illogical fury. You know, like the fury that overtakes him when he beats up that suspect in the hotel room, like just furious, illogical. You know, at the how illogical the situation is, just furious. He's forced to spend time with that, and the more he is, the more he realizes how futile it is.
Right.
You know, and that's why when he arrives at the farmhouse, he's already, as it were, before he even meets her, realized a significant amount of that.
Right.
The After Movie Diner with John Cross will return right after this.
Your guide to cinema etiquette from the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews podcast. Question 17. When choosing a seat at a largely empty movie cinema, do you
A. Sit directly in front of another person. B. Sit right alongside a couple clearly enamored with one another. Or C. Take a seat away from other patrons that afford you a good view. If you answered A or B, fuck you!
For more useful cinema etiquette, join Paul and Wayne on the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews podcast at Podomatic on iTunes or your favorite podcast app.
Good morning. Are you single and ready to mingle? Well, you're in luck because you can find your match by listening to the greatest podcast on earth, and it's
called the Poop Culture Podcast.
Visit us at www.poopculture.com.
Poop culture, yeah, poop culture. Poop culture, yeah, it's a poop culture. Poop culture, it's culture shock. Listen in and it'll make the world rock. Laugh and cry and cringe and bust with a man cry. Poop culture. Yeah, yeah, poop culture. Poop, 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 poop culture. Yeah, it's the poop culture.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
But then there's the scenario that she gives him, "I'm going to give up my brother, for you, but you have to promise to keep him safe." Just putting him in this catch-22 with the other guy, and I can't cannot pull back what I was thinking about in the movie, and it's driving me nuts.
Well, I tell you what we could do.
So,
we can
but
have,
anyway,
like-
we'll keep going.
Listen,
I don't want to get stuck at that point.
No,
but
that's
like-
true. But what I'm saying is the good thing about Cross Take is you've got a theme tune, right? So if it occurs to you in between now
No, I
and
get it.
actually
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
the episode,
Yeah, I can
just
put it
play
in.
the theme tune, put it at
Put
the
it
end.
in.
Bob's yours.
It didn't occur to me. Bugger. And it's not.
Also, she's appealing to his humanity in the house. Nobody up to that point in the whole movie,
Right.
except maybe Pop, I guess, but has appealed to him as a human rather than as a cop.
Right.
You know, like she doesn't say, you know, you're a cop, you've got to follow the rules.
Right.
You know, it's like, promise me.
Right.
You know, she appeals to his humanity.
Right.
And that, he becomes like softened. The longer the chase goes on, that this one day, all it is a day.
Right.
The longer this one day goes on, the more he's softened, and you know his rage is like sucked out of him,
Right.
and it's replaced by, towards her anyway, like tenderness, like a certain, you know, like that desire to take care of somebody and to look after them.
Right. But not in a way where, like, I don't think he ever sees her as helpless.
No.
And I like that about it. And I don't think that. And I think that he also finds it refreshing that he's in a scenario where, if he does it right and if he plays it right, he can actually do some good, and he can actually
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
put something away and put someone away, and instead of killing him is the easy route.
Yeah.
Finding him and killing him is the easy route. And it's also not a line that we know he's crossed up until that point. We
No,
don't
that's
know that
true.
he's gone around killing people.
No.
We know that he's been beating a few people up. We don't know that he's
Yeah,
ever
and
killed
even
them.
that, like, I mean, in terms of the rules of whatever this city is and the type of police department it is, they seem to be pretty, I mean, everybody seems to be pretty upset by the fact that he's going too far beating up suspects.
Right.
And they what they appear to be, more than anything actually, is concerned for him.
Right.
Like, they're not like, you know, listen, you know, you get results, and you're a loose cannon, you know, Bane or whatever. It's not
Right.
that, it's like, we're worried about you.
Right.
You know, because we can't work with this.
Right.
And there's that really pleasingly pragmatic thing of the captain saying, you know, what good's information if you beat it out of a guy and it gets thrown out of court?
Right.
You know.
But there's also like a really interesting scene with the captain
Yeah, with him eating.
where he's sat in
eating
a restaurant.
breakfast as well,
Breakfast,
right?
but he's eating like a whole bunch of food, like literally a fat cat
Basket.
at a
And there's like peas, and you go, what's this guy having for breakfast, man?
right. And he comes in, and it's literally like it's this weird comment on hierarchy that doesn't quite fit in the movie.
No, it seems to me more like,
Because why is it trying to say that the captain like is just a big fat desk jockey who eats a lot of food?
I tell you what it is. I tell you what it reminds me of. It
That doesn't
reminds
really
me-
play into.
But it reminds me of
Is that
Friday-
his justification? Is that his like? Well, at least I'm still walking the beat and putting people away. Like, is that his?
I don't think it's that. I think it's a trope that I think connotes, when it's used, and it is usually used in film noirs, it's the idea that, first of all, it makes the detective, whoever's coming in, not that important.
Right.
Because it's like, this is so not important, I can deal with this while I'm eating lunch. In other words, when he's putting together his calendar for the day, you know, I'm going to see this guy, then I'm going to see that guy, I'm going to take that meeting, then I'm going to have some lunch. You know, send him in then. That'll be, you know, it's only going to take a few minutes. So it's
Right.
like, you're not important. And the other thing is, you're saying that you're drawing a contrast between the relative success that each character has made of their lives, right? He scrapes out food into a bin and then throws the plates in a sink. Like, that's what the Robert Ryan character does right at the beginning. And here's a guy who's eating in a 5-star restaurant, ordering whatever he likes, and it's brought to him, and he's eating whatever he found, you know, whatever takes. So there's that thing of like,
But it also makes you feel. But that's
take
where,
my advice, right? Because look at how I'm doing. Like, it's,
Right.
it's a little part of it.
And I think that
A
there
little
is.
bit decadent, you know.
I think there's
like,
a-
do you really want to end up like me? If you keep going down this course, at best, even if you rein in your temper and you become the best cop ever, you'll just be a fat guy in a booth eating peas. If that's all you want,
Right.
go for your life. But that's what's waiting.
But I also think that, like I said before, his scenario is self-imposed. So his living with the barest minimum, shuffling about in the same suit and coat, scraping stuff into a bin, not having any connections with anyone. It's all self-imposed. And maybe one of the things that he uses to justify that is that, well, at least I'm not this fat guy sat there shoveling food into my mouth. I'm lean, I'm on the streets, I'm not a despot.
There's a fair amount of self-delusion at the beginning. Like the pop's watching a Western with his kids, he's hanging out with his other partner's hanging out with his wife, and he's reading through the criminal profiles.
Yeah.
He's swatting up, as
right.
Initially at the beginning, he looks like, I'm the serious police. It looks like, well, they're just lazy bums or whatever, and I'm going to be the hard-working cop or whatever.
But no, but there is this feeling towards the end that it's a no-win situation. I know there's a no-win situation in the sense that she's probably making him promise something he can't promise. There's no real way to rein in the father. And in fact, the father does balls it up for everybody. When he confronts the boy, the big revelation is that he's a boy. He's a teenager at best.
Yeah.
He's not
he's 14, 15.
He's not
maybe.
a damaged adult. He's a teenager. He's a child. And I think that adds even more to the softening of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like...
Well, there's right at the end, when, it all goes down, the father's fury just disappears immediately.
Immediately he realizes...
He becomes a father again.
Yeah.
Weirdly. It's like given back to him.
Yeah. So I don't feel at all in the last 45 minutes that I've at all explained or...
No, I think we did okay. We explored...
No, I don't think I have, because I really, really, really liked the film. I liked the film that it was doing... it's not... It's the reason why I think it's low budget is it's shot very workmanlike, and it's very pedestrian, and it very the sets and everything, and it's not it feels very B-movie-ish in its what it's made and how it's made, and you can't say that everyone in it is a phenomenal actor either. There are quite a few what strike me as people who were maybe hired because of how they looked than necessarily how great they are at acting, because everyone looks really good. Everyone looks the business and very authentic, but you can't say that any of them, apart from the two leads, are particularly amazing actors. But the two leads are charismatic as all hell. Either Lupino's amazing and he's amazing. And I feel like what's interesting is the ending was earned. The ending felt...
Yeah, even though it was actually really quick. It's just that him leaving her big like she wanted, and driving back to the city, and they just fade the mountains he's driving through into the lights of the city. And then he just turns around.
Yeah.
And you feel like...
But you don't even see him turn around.
Yeah, you don't, that's true. You just see him come. You just see the house again, I suppose. But you're right. It doesn't feel like any other film would stick a scene in at the city where he goes through again and he realizes that he belongs with her. But whoever made him, he's like, we don't need it.
Well, that's what I mean.
They've earned it up to this point. Let's just give it to him. He has to walk away, because if he stays...
It's based on a novel. It's written a lot like a play. Certainly the scenes in the house are all written very much like a play. And it's not concerned with... I mean, it was barely an hour and a half. It's not concerned...
No, 80 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it's not concerned in padding out the thing with erroneous scenes it doesn't need. But what is interesting about it is that it did take its time in the beginning. It showed you enough in the beginning that you got a full sense of his life. Because I think in a weird way...
Without weirdly necessarily up to the point that before he meets her, he hasn't generated an awful lot of sympathy for himself.
No, and in fact,
a lead character.
the opening sequence The only thing they do that I suppose makes him a little more justified is that they make it a cop killing. He's trying to find someone accused of a cop killing. And even in modern movies, that's become a cliche where like, well, if it's a cop killing, then all niceties are off the table and we're going to just go crazy about it. You know what I mean? Like that.
Although, interesting that nobody else shares that.
No.
If anything, like the captain has to turn up at the squad room at the beginning of the movie and goes, do I need to remind you there's a cop killer wandering around out there? And they're all like, yeah. You know,
Right.
like nobody's like, yeah, come on, man.
Except him.
Except him.
Right, because I think he finds a weird nobility in like being
if you think
principled.
about it, if you just directly compare what he does that evening with what his partners do, he finds the information that leads to the guy that will take him to the cop killer.
Right.
One partner sits in a car and asks for an ice cream sundae and fancies flirting with the waitress. And his other partner's a bit bothered by his shoulders. He goes to see the doctor,
and then goes
he rubs
home.
a bit of liniment on it and goes home.
Yeah.
This is the. I mean, it may well be a crime-ridden city, but it's a crime-ridden city policed by, do you know what I mean? A squad, you know, less than. It's not.
Which I think is
great.
where that's the other thing. He's beaten himself down over the last 11 years, trying to be the cop that he thinks everyone should be. And he feels like it all falls,
that's true. That's
falls
not
on his
specifically said,
shoulders.
that's not specifically said, but I think you're right, actually. Yeah.
No, but I think it's said in the opening shots of like
No,
you
I'm
say,
sorry.
he sat with
I
his
agree.
seven.
I'm just saying no one comes out because
Yeah.
a lot of it is made explicit. Like that, the speech that the Pops gives to him in the alley is like no one gave him that speech in the book. It's like a neat summary of like,
Right.
what that part of the movie is meant to be for.
Right,
And I think you're right.
It's interesting because if you had made this movie post all the cliche-ridden films where all cops are like, oh, there's a cop killer, so we're all going to band together until we find the person and kill them.
Right.
You would be like, oh, this is deconstructing the cliche and breaking down the walls and da-da-da-da-da and all the rest of it.
It feels almost like a 90s movie.
Right.
You know, it feels like the movie where the guy that's a bit too brutal and he gets sent on a case,
Right.
like up in like a remote,
But what's interesting
woodsy
is,
part of the world where he falls in love with a blind woman, and you know what I mean. Like that's kind of
yeah, again, I don't know a lot about film noir, but like this is beginning of the 50s. Most of the
none of them was 40s.
most of the Bogart
30s
stuff and all
and
that is all 30s and 40s.
There are some, but it's a bit.
And
there are some in it.
I wonder if this isn't a reaction to like the 15 years of movies that come before. Like I feel like if this was made in 99 or early 2000, it would be a reaction to the cop dramas and the thrillers of the late 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe this is a reaction to, well, let's talk about the cops that we tend to idolize in movies, or the people we tend to idolize are these hard-nosed people with no humanity, well, no human, long-term human connection.
Yeah.
You know, who have to get their man and da-da-da-da-da. But let's look at that for a minute. Is that really who we want to idolize, and is that really who we need to become? And
I wonder if, and I don't know this for sure.
in fact, the only thing that the ending doesn't quite, like, it's a great ending because he realizes, yes, there's something more that I could be doing, and there's something that maybe is genuinely noble rather than whatever ideas of nobility I have in my head. But almost the perfect ending with him would be him finally realizing what it takes to be an actually good cop, and letting someone into his life.
What I'm wondering is because he says at some point I don't know how to do anything else, right? But there's that thing, and again I don't know, and I don't want to get into the whole captain speculation.
Yeah.
But the thing about him being like. They throw that stuff in about him being a high school athlete, right?
Right.
And he throws the paper with the kid, and then he goes up and looks at his his trophies. And I wonder whether, like, obviously there is that thing that happens in movies where guy who's like the high school running quarterback or whatever goes to the big city and kind of gets lost a bit and yearns for that feeling of belonging again, particularly like in a small town or whatever, but like that he realizes it's not just the fact that he was a star quarterback that he misses, but that he misses being in that environment and being in that kind of a place. And I wonder whether there's not a bit more explicit in the book the idea that it's maybe not just about her, but also about leaving the city.
Right.
That the city is the grey area, and the small town, with these people who are real people, who are complicated. They're not just like, none of them are like, oh, say, we're all real friendly here. It's like he's only met like a complete nutter who wants to, understandably kill the bloke that's done in his daughter, who then, when that finally happens, shows incredible tenderness towards the guy. Then there's, the bad guy himself, who is this, clearly mentally ill, but not without kindness, fills the sister's house deliberately with unique sculptures that allow her to move around. He's not ungrateful for what she's done, and she's given up the site to look after a kid who is obviously mentally ill. So they're real complicated people, but it's smaller, and maybe it's easier for him to navigate. But something of like, he longs for the simplicity of the times when he was like the star athlete.
Yeah.
I think is maybe something that's happening in that ending that's a bit lost in the 80-minute let's get to the chase thing.
But I also think that it's wonderfully played and actually a genuinely romantic ending. There is a release when it happens.
Do they kiss, or is it just the hands?
No, they kiss.
Because I felt like when he like holds it, when she's coming down the stairs, he holds her hand out to her, and she holds her hand out like almost instinctively because she can't see.
Right.
They reach for each other, and then the shot of their hands holding each other is really something.
Yeah.
They could have faded. I mean, I know it's Hollywood, so they've got to end it. Hollywood in the 50s has got to end with them kissing. Right?
Right.
They didn't need to. They could have just
No.
ended on the hands and faded out to the mountain. Because it's the other thing, like, the last shot is not of them kissing it in the end, like, some movies are. It's of the mountains and the snow and the, you know what I mean? It's it's not just them, it's them in this place.
Yeah.
So I think that's a part of it.
Yeah. But it's
The city is not romanticised, is it?
no.
At all.
No, not at all. It's a really, like, there's so much going on.
There is. It was very
There's so much going on.
I didn't feel like I was being. Film noirs are like really entertaining because they're snappy and they're funny and they're exciting and they're cool, and there's they're like the blockbusters as it were of their day. But this feels more like one of those. It feels like one of those late 80s cop thrillers where there's more going on there. Like when they end up on a Native American reservation or whatever, the idea of like taking a cop out and putting them into a strange land and seeing what happens, and it's kind of a serious exploration of what it is to be human, what it is to be an American, those kind of movies, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was really great. It was really great.
Well, thanks, man.
Really enjoyed it. It was fantastic.
And hopefully you'll be able to put bonus cross take on the end.
Yeah, no, actually, I think we covered it.
Cool. Awesome.
I'm not feeling like there's stuff left to say.
No, if you get a chance to see On Dangerous Ground, especially if it comes on the big screen, which again, that was another thing about it, I didn't feel alienated from it at all, even though it was like a bit of a scratch. I mean, actually it was in pretty good nick, but I don't know, sometimes I can feel a little bit alienated from 40s movies because they are very stylised, and the music and the costume, and it's, it's whatever. At this point, 60, nearly 70 years old.
Right.
But it was really immediate. I felt a real connection to people in it.
Yeah.
Right. So if you get a chance to see it, definitely go see it.
And again, one of those things where all the same shit that's going on today, it was going on 70 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same questions, the same stories, the same humanity, the same thing. Only somewhere along the line we forgot how to make good movies about it.
Very true.
And you have to go back to 1951 to find a good movie about it.
But fortunately they're out there.
They are out there.
So you go find it.
To be found.
Yeah.
So everyone check it out if you see it. And thanks again, Jim Wallace.
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you to Charles H. Nelson
Riley.
and Micah Johnson. Riley. Wait.
No, I'm just, because there's that Nelson Riley. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Nelson Riley.
Charles H. Nelson.
Charles H. Nelson and Micah Johnson for being all-round good eggs.
Yes. And Chris Leatherman. And I just ate eggs.
You paid for those eggs. Charles H. Nelson and Michael Johnson.
And Chris Leatherman.
Right. You should end with that noise. Noise.
It all worked out in the end.
Sort of.
Flew in on a plane of flamingo.
Sort of.
Waiting for his
Water
wings to hit the ground. Trundled home in a limo.
Porter.
Rushing on the endless run from the
Quarter.
gods whose adventures
Never,
ever hang around.
Yeah, but there's something in the rainy day
Smile, that girl of mine.
Tiny lines on lips that read
Everything's fine,
more or less.
and I guess
Right now,
anything's worth trying. Suppose they'll throw us in the ground or burn us. Nice to see so many turn up. The barbershop trio sang a lovely melody. I hope we're not awake when they turn on the furnace. I wonder what a diamond teeth will earn us. I suppose it's something else that we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, but there's something in a rainy day smile. That girl of mine. Tiny lines on lips that read everything's fine, more or less. And I guess
right now,
everything's worth trying.